We had rules. That is where this story begins. Not with a dramatic meeting or a thunderstruck moment or the specific cinematic recognition of someone who is looking at the person they will spend the rest of their life with and knowing it instantly. We had rules. I typed them out on my phone notes app on a Sunday afternoon in April while we were sitting at opposite ends of the couch, not touching, with the specific deliberate casualness of two people who were being very rational about something that did not feel rational. Rule 1: no sleepovers. We meet, we spend time together, someone goes home. Rule 2: no plus ones. We do not attend each other's social events. What is between us stays between us. Rule 3: no discussions of feelings. This is a practical arrangement between two adults who are attracted to each other and are both, for different reasons, not looking for something serious. Rule 4: no checking in on each other. We are not in each other's daily lives. We are in each other's occasionally. Rule 5: either of us can end it at any time, for any reason, without explanation required. I read them back. He read them on my phone. He said, "These are good rules." I said, "Yes, practical." He said, "Should we write them somewhere more official?" I said, "The Notes app is official enough." He said, "Okay." And then he stayed until midnight, which was a violation of Rule 1, and I did not say anything about it because I did not want him to leave. That was the beginning of the end of the rules. My name is Felix. His name is Dante. And this is the story of the rules we made and how every single one of them fell apart. We met in February at a mutual friend's birthday gathering. The birthday was Priya's. She was turning 27 and had assembled approximately 30 people in a bar in the Mission District of San Francisco that was exactly the right size for 30 people who all knew each other by degrees rather than directly. The kind of gathering where you ended the evening knowing 7 new people's names and having had 3 conversations that were more interesting than you expected. He was one of the 3 interesting conversations. His name was Dante Reyes. He was 29. Mexican-American, his family from Guadalajara, his parents having settled in the Bay Area when he was 7. He had the kind of face that was specific, not conventionally handsome in the magazine sense. Handsome in the way that specific people are, when their features are exactly right for who they are and there is no element that would work better differently. He was at the bar getting his drink when I arrived at mine, and Priya had introduced us with the energy of someone who had a plan. She absolutely had a plan. Felix makes documentary films, she told Dante. Dante does music production. She looked between us. You're both here for another 40 minutes before you both leave early because you both have early mornings tomorrow. She smiled. Talk. She left. He looked at me. Does she do this often? He said. With me constantly, I said. You. First time, he said. Either she has a specific agenda, or she is right that we have 40 minutes and compatible interests. Which do you think? I said. Both, he said. We talked for 40 minutes. Then we stayed for 2 more hours. He made music for documentary films, film scores primarily. He had done 2 features and was working on a third, a commission from a San Francisco-based documentary filmmaker whose work I knew and had, in fact, cited in my own director's statement for a grant I was applying for. I had been trying to get a meeting with that filmmaker's production company for a year. We had between us approximately 6 degrees of connection in a professional world that was smaller than it appeared. We talked about the work with the specific animation of 2 people who were actually interested in each other's field rather than performing interest in it. He had questions about documentary structure that were specific and not the questions of someone making conversation. I had questions about the relationship between score and image that I had been thinking about in the context of my current project. At midnight, Priya found us and said, "I told you." We exchanged numbers. He texted me the following Tuesday. I responded on Wednesday. We had coffee on Thursday. We did not have coffee on Thursday. We intended to have coffee on Thursday, and we ended up talking for 4 hours, and the coffee was incidental, and at the end of it, we were both aware that something had happened that was more than coffee. He said, "This is complicated." I said, "Why complicated?" He said, "Because I am not looking for a relationship. I have been single for 2 years deliberately, by choice. The relationship that ended before the 2 years was, I need more time." I said, "I understand. I am not looking for a relationship either. The last year of my life has been the most professionally demanding year I have experienced, and I do not have the bandwidth. He said, but. I said, but this was very good coffee. He almost smiled. Yes, he said, it was. He said, there might be a version of this that isn't a relationship. I said, there might be. He said, we should think about what that looks like. I said, the Sunday Cooch version. He said, yes. And that was how we got to the Sunday Cooch with the phone and the Notes app and the 5 rules. Rule 1 held for 3 weeks. The first 3 meetings ended at appropriate hours with appropriate goodbyes at the door and no lingering. We were both very good at the no lingering. We had made a decision and we were honoring it. Week 4, he fell asleep on my couch. Not deliberately. We had been watching something, a documentary I had recommended, the kind I was always recommending, about a Mexican-American community in East Los Angeles and their relationship to their neighborhood. He had been fully present in the watching, which I had noticed and filed under things I was not examining. At some point around 11, he had gone quiet and I had looked over and he was asleep. I should have woken him. I made a blanket available and went to bed. In the morning, he was in the kitchen. He had made coffee. He looked at me when I came out. Rule 1, he said. You fell asleep, I said. On your couch, he said. Yes, I said. That is a gray area, he said. The rule specifies sleepovers, I said. This was a couch incident. He held the coffee. A couch incident, he said. You also made coffee, I said, which is arguably a Rule 2 violation. You're in my domestic space. He held the coffee. The coffee was already there, he said. I just activated it. I held my cup. Activated it, I said. We looked at each other over our cups. Something in the morning light that was not in the evening light. The coffee is good, I said. I know how to make coffee, he said. We drank our coffee. Neither of us mentioned the rules again that morning. Rule 2 fell in May. Priya threw another gathering. She was a person who gathered people with the regularity of someone who understood that community required active maintenance. She had invited both of us independently, and when we arrived at the same time and walked in together, she looked at us with the expression of someone whose plan was proceeding as intended. We were not +1s, we were both invited. But we were together in a room full of people who knew one of us, and were now meeting the other through us, and the introduction required a descriptor, and the descriptor we used was, this is Dante, this is Felix, we know each other through Priya. The shared social appearance. Neither of us said anything about Rule 2 afterward. Rule 3 began falling in the 3rd week of May, when he mentioned his mother. Not dramatically, he had called his mother that afternoon. I had been at his apartment, which was a newer development and a separate category violation that we had also not discussed, and when she called he had stepped into the kitchen and spoken in Spanish for 20 minutes. When he came back, he had the specific quiet of someone who had had an emotionally complex conversation. Your mother, I said. Yes, he said. Is everything okay, I said. He held his phone. She worries, he said, about me, about what she sees as a life that is moving too slowly, by her timeline. Her timeline, I said. Marriage, he said, children, he held the phone. She does not know I am gay, my parents do not know. I held this. How long, I said. He looked at me. Have they not known, he said. Yes, I said. I have been out to everyone else since I was 24, he said. My parents they are traditional. The specific Guadalajara Catholic tradition that I was raised in. I have not been ready. Are you ready now? I said. He held his phone. I am getting closer, he said, than I have been. What changed? I said. He held the phone. He did not answer immediately. Things have changed, he said. Things. The word that held more than it said. I did not ask what things, not that day. But the conversation about his mother and the things that had changed, that was Rule 3. That was feelings territory. That was something more than practical. And neither of us named it. June. He played me his work. Not the finished work I could have found with a search and had not mentioned finding, because mentioning it would have required acknowledging that I had looked. The in-progress work, the current score for the documentary he was producing. He played it from his studio speakers, a proper studio in the second bedroom of his apartment, with the equipment of someone who did this professionally and seriously. He played it without explanation, and I sat on the studio couch and listened. The music was extraordinary. Not because it was technically impressive, it was that too, because it was emotionally precise. The specific quality of a film score that understood its subject and had found the musical language for it without being manipulative or on the nose. When it ended, I was quiet for a moment. "You're not saying anything," he said. "I'm thinking," I said. "About what?" he said. "About how you made that," I said. The moment at 1:47 where the melody drops out and you're left with just the low register. That moment, what were you thinking about when you wrote that moment? He held the mouse. He looked at the screen. "The filmmaker gave me a note early in the process," he said. "She said, there's a moment in the film where the subject realizes that what they thought was a loss was actually a preparation. I want the music to hold the before and the after of that realization simultaneously." He held the mouse. "I worked on that for 3 weeks. 1:47 is the closest I got." I held this. "It's not close," I said. "It's exactly right." He held the mouse. "Tell me what you hear," he said. I told him, not the technical language. I did not have the technical language, the emotional language, what the moment communicated, the specific quality of before and after held simultaneously, what it made me think about. He listened with the full attention he gave everything. When I finished, he said, "That's what I was trying to say." "You said it," I said. He held the mouse. He looked at me. "Felix," he said. "Yeah. Why are you here?" he said. The question that could mean many things. "You invited me," I said. "To hear the music," he said. "Yes, but you could have just heard it. I could have sent a file." He held the mouse. "I didn't send a file." "No," I said. "I wanted you here," he said, "specifically for this specific thing." He held the mouse. "That is a Rule 3 thing." I held the couch cushion. "Yes," I said. "I am not going to pretend it isn't," he said. "No," I said. He held the mouse. "What are we doing?" he said. I held the cushion. "I don't know," I said, "but it's not what the rules said it would be." He held the mouse. "No," he said, "it isn't." I went home that night. I did not stay. I drove home to my apartment in the Mission and I sat in my car in the parking garage and I looked at my phone notes app and the 5 rules I had typed on the Sunday couch in April, and I looked at the violations. Rule 1, couch incident, violation adjacent. Rule 2, prayers gathering, violation adjacent. Rule 3, his mother, the things that changed, the music, the specific question of why are you here, significant violations. And I thought about the music, about 1:47, about before and after held simultaneously. And I thought, I know what the before was. It was April and the Sunday couch and the rules and the very rational decision to have a practical arrangement. And I know what the after is. I am living in the after. The after is June and a studio couch and a piece of music that was exactly right and a man who wanted me there specifically. And I thought I should be honest with myself about what the after is. And then I went upstairs and I called my best friend Amara and I said, "I have a problem." And she said, "Tell me." And I said, "The rules are not holding." And she said, "What rules?" And I said, "Never mind." And she said, "Felix." And I said, "I think I am falling in love with him." And she said, "Finally." And I said, "What do you mean finally?" And she said, "I mean that was the most avoidably inevitable thing I have ever witnessed." The summer. San Francisco in July is the specific cold summer that Mark Twain did or did not say was the coldest winter he ever spent. The fog that rolls in through the Golden Gate in the afternoons and makes the city mysterious in the way of a place that is wearing a coat when everyone expected a sundress. We had stopped counting the rule violations. Not explicitly, we had not sat down and said, "The rules are no longer in effect." We had simply continued, and the continuing had moved past the rules without ceremony. He slept over. On a Thursday in July, after dinner at my apartment that he had helped me make, he cooked. I helped, the same dynamic as the park bench story. The kitchen is the place where two people who are paying full attention discover each other's rhythms. He slept in my bed, not on the couch, in my bed, and in the morning he made coffee. And we drank the coffee and I asked him what he was working on and he told me and I told him what I was working on and it was easy. The specific easy of something that is the right version of itself. He went to Priya's birthday dinner as my +1 in July. He was not introduced as a friend through Priya, he was introduced as Dante. The context was communicated by the specific quality of the introduction, the hand on his back when I introduced him to someone I had known since college, the way we occupied the same physical space, the specific proximity of people who know each other beyond the professional and the social. Amara pulled me aside at the dinner. "He's very good," she said. "He makes good music," I said. "That's not what I mean," she said. "I know," I said. "What is he?" she said. "I don't know," I said. She looked at me. "You know," she said. "I know what I want him to be," I said. "I don't know what he is." "Ask," she said. "It's complicated," I said. "It's not complicated," she said. "You're making it complicated because complicated feels safer than asking." I held my drink. "When did you get this perceptive?" I said. "I've always been this perceptive," she said. "You've been inside the rules." The argument. It happened in August. Not a shouting argument, the quiet kind. The kind that is more frightening because of the specific quality of someone managing their voice, because the alternative to managing it would be saying everything. We had been to a gallery opening. A friend of his, a visual artist who had been in his life since college, and who looked at me when we arrived with the specific assessment of someone who had known Dante for a long time and was evaluating the new variable. Her name was Rosa. She was warm. She was also sharp in the way of people who have been watching someone closely for years and have developed opinions. She said at some point in the evening, "Dante doesn't bring people to things." "He mentioned you might be here," I said. "No," she said, "he brings people, he does not bring whoever you are." I held my drink. "I'm Felix," I said. "I know who you are," she said. "He talks about you." She held her own drink. "You're the filmmaker." "Yes," I said. "He's been playing me his work," she said. "More than usual. He says it's going well. He hasn't said why." I held my drink. "The score is extraordinary," I said. She looked at me. "Yes," she said, "it is, and he knows it. He's known it since you heard it." She went to talk to someone else. I held my drink. In the car on the way home, he was quiet. "Rosa likes you," he said. "She was assessing me," I said. "That's how Rosa likes people," he said. I held my door handle. "She said you talk about me," I said. He held the steering wheel. "She overestimates," he said. "Dante," I said. "Yeah. We are not in rule territory anymore," I said. "We both know that. I would like us to acknowledge it." He held the steering wheel. "Felix," he said. "I am not trying to force a conversation," I said. "I am trying to have an honest one, which is different." He held the steering wheel. "What do you want to say?" he said. "I want to say that in April we made 5 rules and every single one of them has been violated," I said, "and that the violations have happened naturally, without drama, because what we said the arrangement was and what the arrangement actually became are not the same thing." I held the door handle, and I want to know if you are aware of that. He held the steering wheel. "Yes," he said, "I am aware." "And," I said. He held the steering wheel. "And I am afraid," he said. "Of what?" I said. "Of the last thing that was real," he said. "The relationship that ended before the 2 years. His name was Marco. We were together for 3 years. I loved him with the specific totality of someone who had never loved anyone before. And it ended in a way that," he stopped, "in a way that taught me things about myself that I have been sitting with for 2 years. I held the door handle. "What things?" I said. "That I give too much," he said. "That I lose myself in what the other person needs. That I stopped making music that was mine and started making music that I thought he wanted. That by the end of 3 years, I did not know what I would be making if I was making for myself." I held the door handle. "And in the past 4 months," I said, "what have you been making?" He held the steering wheel. He did not answer immediately. 147, he said. I held the door handle. "That was yours," I said. "Yes," he said. "Not for Marco," I said. No, he said. For you, I said. For me, he said, and he stopped. And I said. He held the steering wheel. And because you were going to hear it, he said, because I wanted you to hear something that was exactly right. I held the door handle. Dante, I said. Yeah. The rules were protection, I said, for you, against the losing of yourself. Yes, he said. And in 4 months of the rules being violated, I said, have you lost yourself? He held the steering wheel. He held it for a long time. No, he said, the opposite. I held the door handle. What does the opposite look like? I said. He held the steering wheel. Like 147, he said, like music that is exactly right. I held the door handle. I am not Marco, I said. I know, he said. I do not want you to be anyone except who you are, I said. The music is yours, I want to hear it, I do not want to change what it is. He held the steering wheel. I know, he said. Then what is stopping you? I said. He held the steering wheel. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, nothing. Nothing, I said. Nothing is stopping me, he said. I am afraid, and the fear is not the same as a reason. I held the door handle. No, I said, it isn't. He held the steering wheel. Felix, he said. Yeah. I need to tell you something, he said. Tell me, I said. He held the steering wheel. The rules were not just protection, he said, they were a test. A test of what? I said. Of whether what I felt would survive the rules, he said. Of whether the feeling was real or whether it was just attraction and convenience. He held the steering wheel. If I felt this at the end of the rules, if I felt more at the end of the rules than I did at the beginning, then the feeling was real. I held the door handle. And do you? I said. He held the steering wheel. Yes, he said, Maury, significantly more. I held the door handle. The car, the August night, the specific quality of a conversation that has reached the point where both people know what comes next and are simply finding the path there. Dante, I said. Yeah. I am in love with you, I said. I have been for a while. I did not say it because the rules did not have a space for it, and then the rules fell and I still did not say it because I was afraid of what you just said, that the feeling was not mutual. He held the steering wheel. He let go of it. He turned to look at me. I love you, he said, not performed, not decorated, the information accurately communicated. Since when? I said. 147, he said. I looked at him. You knew at 147, I said. I knew at 147 that I wanted you to hear it, he said. I understood why at 2 in the morning afterward. You were awake at 2 in the morning, I said. Yes, he said. What were you thinking about? I said. He held my gaze. You, he said. The car, the August night. Dante, I said. Yeah. Take me home, I said. Your home or mine, he said. Yours, I said, tonight, mine tomorrow, we'll figure out the pattern. He held my gaze. Something in his face that was the specific quality of someone releasing something they have been holding. Okay, he said. Okay, I said. He drove to his apartment and we went in and we were both quiet in the specific way that people are quiet when something significant has been said and is now present in the room and does not require elaboration. He put music on. Not his music, something else, something he had not made, the music of someone else's feeling as a backdrop to our own. And I sat on his studio couch and he sat beside me and neither of us performed anything. We were just there. Present in the thing that we had been building since February without calling it what it was. And at some point I said, we were terrible at the rules. And he said, we were never going to be good at the rules. And I said, then why did we make them? And he held his drink and he said, because the thing we were trying to protect was worth protecting. And I held my drink and I thought about that, about what we had been protecting, about the 2 years he had spent rebuilding after Marco. About the bandwidth I had used as a reason and the relationship I had used as a precedent for caution. And I thought we were protecting the thing, the actual thing, not from each other, from our own fear of it. And the rules had fallen in the specific order that meant the protection was no longer necessary. Every rule that fell was a piece of the fear being released, and at the end of the rules there was just us, the thing we had been protecting. Which turned out to be exactly what we had been hoping for all along. The fall came to San Francisco the way it always came, not with the dramatic leaf-turning of other parts of the country, but with a specific quality of light. The summer fog lifting, the city becoming clearer, more visible, as if it had been obscuring itself and had decided the obscuring was no longer necessary. We did not announce anything. Not because we were hiding, because the people who mattered had been watching for months and did not require announcement. Amara had said finally in July. Rosa had assessed and approved at the gallery. Priya had been conducting her plan since February. The announcing happened organically, as the natural consequence of two people who were no longer performing casualness. His parents. He called them in September, not the announcement call, something else first. He called them on a Sunday in September, and I was there, and he spoke to his mother in Spanish for 30 minutes. When he hung up, he held the phone. "How was it?" I said. She asked again, he said, about relationships, about the timeline. I held my tea. "What did you say?" I said. "I told her there was someone," he said. "I told her his name was Felix." He held the phone. "I told her I was happy." I held my tea. "How did she receive it?" he said. "She was quiet," he said, and then she said he, and I said yes, and she was quiet again. He held the phone, and then she said, "Tell me about him." I held my tea. "What did you tell her?" I said. "That he makes documentary films," he said. "That he talks about music with the specific language of someone who loves it without making it. That he holds his tea with both hands." He held the phone. "That he is the reason the current score is the best thing I have made." I held my tea. "Did she understand?" I said. "She is processing," he said. "My father will need more time," but he held the phone. She said, "I want to meet him." I held my tea. "When you're ready," I said. He looked at me. "She said Christmas," he said. "She said bring him for Christmas." I held my tea. Something in my chest. Christmas, the specific weight of that word in the context of family, of being brought into the place where someone's original people were. "Dante," I said. "Yeah." "Are you sure?" I said. "Yes," he said. "I have been sure since August." "August," I said. "The car," he said. "When you said you were in love with me, I was sure before that, but the car was when I understood I was done being afraid." I held my tea. "What changed it?" I said. "The fear." He held his phone. "You said I am not Marco," he said, "and the way you said it, not defensively, not as an argument, as a fact, as information." He held the phone. "And I thought that is someone who knows the difference between persuasion and truth. And the truth was you are not Marco. You are not anyone who came before you. You are specifically yourself, and I have been in love with that specific person since 1:47 in June." I held my tea. 1:47, I said. 1:47, he said. I held my tea. "I am going to put that in a film," I said. "Not the story," he said. "No," I said, "the concept, before and after held simultaneously." He held his phone. "Is that what this is?" he said. I held my tea. "Yes," I said, "that's what love is, holding before and after at the same time. The person who has not met you yet and the person who has known you forever, held simultaneously." He held his phone. "That's good," he said. "It's what your music taught me," I said. He held his phone. He looked at me. "Felix," he said. "Yeah." "I love you," he said. "This is the 4th time I have said it, and it gets more true every time." "That's how it works," I said. "Is it?" he said. "I think so," I said. "I'm learning." "Me too," he said. "We are both learning," I said. "Good," he said. "Equal footing." "Equal footing," I said. October. My current project was a documentary about a community garden in the Excelsior neighborhood of San Francisco. The specific story of a piece of land and the people who had fought for it. The way community was built through a shared relationship to a small piece of earth in a city that was running out of small pieces of earth. I had been working on it for 6 months. In October, I showed him the cut. Not the finished version, the working cut. the version that was close but not there, the version that had a gap in it that I could not identify. He watched it in my living room on the laptop, with the sound through his portable speakers, because he insisted that speakers mattered for this kind of watching. When it finished, he was quiet. He said, "The gap is at 11 minutes. I held my laptop. "Tell me," I said. He told me, the specific moment, 11 minutes in, where the film was asking its central question, but the question was not fully articulated yet in the image or the sound, the gap between what the film was trying to say and what it was currently saying. "How do you fix it?" he said. "I don't know," I said. "I do," he said. I held the laptop. "Tell me," I said. He told me, not the music, the structure, the specific editorial observation of someone who was not a filmmaker, but who understood sound and rhythm and the relationship between what you hear and what you feel, and how the gap in the film was a gap in the rhythm of the image rather than the content. I listened. I looked at the cut. I made 3 changes. He watched the 3 changes. He said, "That's it." "Yes," I said. "How did I see that?" he said. "Because you're not inside it," I said. "The thing you've been working on for 6 months, you can't see the gap from inside it. You need someone outside it." He held this. "You've been doing that for me," he said, "with the score, listening from outside." "Yes," I said. "And you've been inside your film," he said. "Yes," I said. "So you needed me outside it," he said. "Yes," I said. He held this. "This is what it looks like," he said. "What?" I said. "Being in something with someone," he said. "Not the same thing, your film is yours, my music is mine, but being outside each other's things and seeing them from there." He held the speaker. "That is what I could not do with Marco. I could not be outside. I was inside his thing and my thing dissolved." "And now," I said. "Now I am outside your thing," he said. Clearly, usefully, he held the speaker, "and my thing is more mine than it has been in years." I held the laptop. "That's the distinction," I said, "between being together in a way that helps and being together in a way that consumes." "Yes," he said, "I did not know that distinction was possible. I thought they were the same thing." "They're not," I said. "No," he said. I held the laptop. "Dante," I said. "Yeah." "The film is about community," I said, "about what people build together that they could not build alone." "Yes," he said. "I am going to put you in the credits," I said. He held the speaker. "I didn't do anything," he said. "You saw the gap," I said. "That's not." "That is everything," I said. He finished the score in November. The full score for the documentary commission. The complete work that had started with the playing I had heard in June and had developed over 5 months into the thing it was supposed to be. He played it for me in his studio. The whole of it. 23 minutes of music that was his, and that was complete. The specific completeness of something that has been made correctly, every moment exactly what it needed to be. 1:47 came in the 18th minute of the full score. I had not known where it would fall. When it arrived, I felt it. He was watching me from the studio chair. He watched me feel it. When it ended, he said, "Well, it's the best film score I have ever heard," I said. "You're biased," he said. "Yes," I said, "and it's the best film score I have ever heard." He held the mouse. "Felix," he said. "Yeah. I wrote 18 minutes of it after August," he said. "The car," I said. "The car," he said. I held the couch cushion. "The 3 minutes before August," I said. "Were good," he said, "the 18 minutes after are." 1:47, I said. "All of it," he said, 1:47 extended. I held the cushion. "Dante," I said. "Yeah. This is going to change your career," I said. "Possibly," he said. "Definitely," I said. "The filmmaker is going to screen this, and this is going to be the music people talk about." "You don't know that," he said. "I know that," I said. "I know what good is." He held the mouse. "Thank you," he said, "for knowing what good is." I held the cushion. "Thank you," I said, for showing me before and after simultaneously. He held the mouse. The rules, he said. Yes, I said. We were terrible at them, he said. The worst, I said. But we needed them, he said, to get here. Yes, I said, we needed the rules to know when the rules were no longer necessary. He held the mouse. When were they no longer necessary, he said. April, I said, when you stayed until midnight. He held the mouse. You didn't say anything, he said. I didn't want you to leave, I said. He held the mouse. I didn't want to go, he said. I held the cushion. Then that was when, I said. April, Sunday, midnight. The rules lasted approximately 4 hours. He looked at me. Something crossed his face. The complete version, the one that arrived when something was genuinely wonderful. We wrote rules that lasted 4 hours, he said. We wrote very good rules, I said. They just didn't survive contact with the actual thing. What is the actual thing, he said. I held the cushion. This, I said. He held the mouse. Yes, he said. Yes, I said. His parents' house in Fremont. The specific warmth of a Mexican-American household at Christmas. The Posadas celebration in the week before, which I had been invited to, and had attended with the specific attention of someone who was learning a tradition that was not theirs, and was receiving it with the respect it deserved. The tamales that his mother made in the quantity of someone who understood that Christmas required enough for the people there and the people who might arrive. His mother was named Elena. She had looked at me when we arrived with the specific assessment of a woman who had been waiting for this introduction and had been thinking about it since September. She assessed for approximately 3 minutes. Then she said, "You eat, yes." "Everything," I said, "whatever you made." She held her apron. "Good," she said. She handed me a task, the specific move of someone who integrated people through giving them something to do. I was given the task of arranging the table. I arranged the table. Dante's father, Roberto, was quieter in his assessment. He had needed more time. Dante had told me this, not as a warning but as information. He had come to September's news with the specific difficulty of someone whose faith and his love for his son were producing a conversation in him that had not yet resolved. He came to me in the kitchen, while Alina and Dante were in the other room. "You make films," he said. "Yes," I said. "About what?" he said. "About communities," I said. "About the people who build things together. Neighborhoods, gardens, relationships." I held the glass I was drying. "About what people make when they choose each other." He held his coffee. "Dante makes music," he said. "Extraordinary music," I said. He held his coffee. He stopped. He has been better," he held the coffee. "Since September, something in him has been better." I held the glass. "He is making the best work of his career," I said. "The current score is." "Not only the work," Roberto said. I held the glass. "No," I said, "not only the work." Roberto held his coffee. He was quiet for a long time. "Take care of him," he said, the father's instruction. "He takes care of himself," I said. "I am just here." He held his coffee. He looked at me. "Being here," he said, "is the whole of it." He went back to the living room. I held the glass. Elena appeared in the kitchen doorway. She looked at me. "He said something," she said. "Yes," I said. "Was it okay?" she said. "Yes," I said. "He said being here is the whole of it." She held her apron. "He's right," she said. "He says things like that. He is not always right, but when he is right, he is completely right." I held the glass. "He's right," I said. She held her apron. "Welcome," she said. One word, the verdict. The new year. January. The rules were gone. Not discussed, not formally retired, not ceremonially deleted from the Notes app. They were simply irrelevant. The Notes app still had them. I had not deleted them because they were part of the story, and the story was worth keeping. He was at my apartment on New Year's Eve. Not because it was a holiday, we had not made plans around the holiday, which was itself a statement about how the plans were made. He was at my apartment because he had been at my apartment, and the new year arriving was incidental to that. At midnight, Amara sent a text, "Happy New Year, did you finally delete the rules?" I showed him the text. He held the phone. He looked at the Notes app. He deleted the rules. He showed me the blank note. I held the phone. They needed to exist, I said, to be deleted. Yes, he said. The sequence mattered, I said. Yes, he said. February through January, I said. The rules and the violations and the music and the car and Christmas. Yes, he said. All of it mattered, I said. Yes, he said. I held the phone. Dante, I said. Yeah. What are we now, I said. He held my gaze. Something that doesn't require a rule, he said. No, I said, it doesn't. The real thing, he said. Yes, I said, the real thing. He held my gaze. Felix, he said. Yeah. I love you, he said, in January, which is the 5th time, and I believe it gets more true. It does, I said, it gets more true every time. He held my gaze. 147, he said. Before and after simultaneously, I said. This is the after, he said. Yes, I said. Better than the before, he said. Significantly, I said. He held my gaze. We were on the couch, the same couch, the other end of it from where we had been in April with the phone and the rules. Not performing anything. Simply present in the thing that we had been building since February, without calling it what it was. And the new year outside the window was doing what New Years do, presenting itself as a possibility, which is the only thing that time can do, and which is, if you are in the right place with the right person, exactly enough.